World building like the greats. It's a series of videos that I, as a dungeon master, am making for you, whoever you are, whether you're a dungeon master or a game designer or whoever you may be that you want to world build and run a game or something like that. I have this playlist, which this video is part of how to make these worlds happen the way they happened for the classics, for the best, for the very most evocative of them. So, what is it today? Today it's Elder Scrolls, such as Skyrim and Oblivion and Morrowind and so on, and don't yell at me for starting by mentioning Skyrim and Oblivion. My favorite is Battlespire, so you have nothing to say against me. My favorite is so obscure you barely ever heard of it, let alone touched it. So yes, Elder Scrolls is somewhat amazing in world building because it does a simple thing and makes it complex enough. It takes the following exercise. Take some protracted philosophy or philosophical question, theory, etc. that is not immediately recognized by everyone, and it poses some big question to the setting and the very existence therein. In Elder Scrolls case, this is if everything is a dream, but also reality, and everyone is a dreamer in said dream and reality. What does this leave to you if you are one of those people that live there? What does this leave to you as answers as to what can be done and how will it look to live in such a world with everybody else having all those capabilities as well? Now it goes on to layer an additional layer of traditional D&D-like world on top of it, or underneath it, if you will. So, how does one get from the first to the second is then exercise in transition from, indeed, the first to the second. You have to bridge it. You have to build the how does the first system work so that the second system can still exist. And so the first system is somewhat limited by how powerful a personality one is, how imaginative, etc., etc. There are many small details. There are guesses. And that is a very good thing where you have plenty of in-world guesses from people from the world. Different guesses from the gods, the false gods, the hyper extra-dimensional leeches that are gods, essentially. Both the more sane ones, the more crazy ones, the ones who are multiple same ones and the same ones that are different ones, and so on and so forth. And these people, leeches, gods, etc., whatever you want to call them, also did stuff. They lived, they reincarnated, they went up and down and dated and went to pieces and back again, impersonated one another and back again, and so on. Once all of that happens, you have lots of guesses on how the world works, and given the premise of the world, lots of it is also correct, but without it being nonsensical, because even though the barest peasant has theories that are as accurate as a highest god in the setting, because everybody is equally a dreamer, since the premise was that it's a D&D-esque world, first and foremost, then that's what the gathering of all those outputs ends up being. How? Well, that's how your world is shaped. How do those decisions, how do those dreams make a D&D-esque world? By appearance, philosophy, etc. That's what you're going to be explaining through eyes of very many people, creatures, etc. I had some beliefs from various people about inherent spirits of the wilds and the creatures and the animals and the elementals and so on that both appear and disappear from other worlds of wilderness and concepts such as nature and hunt and madness and return to both cosmos and nature and stars and the world and earth and mathematics and anything else that you want to think of, like perfection or imperfection, time and different timelines. There is so much lore in Elder Scrolls, and yet there are easily worlds that have more lore, and some of them are even more popular, may I add. So it's not the quantity, and it's not exactly even the quality. It's more the regular work being done on it without overstepping is what's good about it. It's a concept that is generally accepted to be a great one, a traditional D&D-esque dungeon crawly, sword and sorcery, but a bit more advanced plane, that then also has this quirk. As such, it starts with knowledge that it will be successful if it can but only keep up with itself. If only it doesn't end up as too much inconsequential nonsense. How do you achieve for it to stand out? You make stuff epic. Many people in the West will claim that things are lame and cringe when they are anime. But, in fact, when things are anime but West, like Elder Scrolls, everybody likes it. Everybody goes into online matches of how much flavor text they can dump about how weird, unique, and cool this one thing that happened this one time in Elder Scrolls is. See? You just need to not be a shallow person and understand that everyone of any age, of any background, inherently, instinctively loves power fantasies, and you just need to ambush them with one where they can pretend that it's serious enough. Somebody more mature will let it also be more cartoony if need be, but if not, well, let's, nail it to them from the underside where they can't quite tell. Essentially. So, what I'm saying is make stuff epic and badass and cool and nice yet threatening, strike a balance of super cool, awesome things that are just too cool for school, but then make them sort of feel like they are very approved, like they're ancient Hindu philosophy just turned into a video game or something like that. Make them legit, make them like something a professor talked about once in school or something. West eats up that sort of thing, I don't know, for whatever reason, but the idea is to legitimize. You then make something that you can be smirking from behind the scenes of how much of a wild ride you had making it, because then you can do whatever you want and you can get away with it too, as long as it's sufficiently refined, sufficiently artistic enough, sufficiently consistent, sufficiently delegated to be a seamless experience to an observer, where it sort of picks up. You start with a little firebolt, cast a fireball one day, and then we're talking about Chim in all capital letters one day. So whether somebody likes those prison rags and a common dagger, or they like the philosophy or anything in between, they'll love it. And of course then there's that thing where you want to wear all of the masks, which is to say, you've probably seen those absolutely heated debates of in Skyrim whether one should take up the Imperial route or the Stormcloak route. And let me tell you, the real trick is making every and any faction just as compelling, just as flawed, just as ridiculous, just as decaying, just as epic, just as badass, just as whatever you want it to be. Empire is essentially coasting on former glory of people liking that they remember Imperials and Empire from former games. Whilst Stormcloaks are coasting on being cool Vikings, despite their flaws. Empire also, as most empires will tend to has extremely glaring flaws too, and you'll have essentially, no matter what, you'll have factions that are filled out enough, and it's ridiculous to try to even place a person that's sane into any of those so staunchly as some people will throw themselves into online. But it's cool that you can get them to do so as a dungeon master. And as such, you should build out your world where you wear all of the masks. Hopefully you won't throw tomatoes at me for wearing a couple of masks here and there. I don't think that's that relevant to what the person really is or does, but people, especially when younger, tend to be fanatical about the first thing that they see and that they think, and therefore they will want to defend it. Later on, you'll notice that it takes extreme subtlety to win this whole horrible game of life. Therefore, hopefully I have explained well enough what wearing all masks means here and such, and that I haven't been trying to pretend to be more mature than anybody else, because I also really like games and like to feel their worlds are real. It just doesn't mean that I should hold aside like that. And that is how you build like Elder Scrolls. So, world builder, adventurer, game designer, if you thought this was useful or unique, perhaps you can spare me a click. And I could see you here next, or perhaps some other week, because every other week I make more such things just for you. I'm Em, and welcome to dMTable. See you next time.